or maybe lack thereof, because it is a very slow process. I do use water to keep things nice and cool. But you can see in this one, oh, I got the wrong side, here we go. See all this business right here? When I drilled and had water on the bit, this was obviously upside down, then all of that water and glass gunk and whatnot leaks down into the tube. So that was goof number one. Now the lamp does, let me see if I can zoom out. Zoom, here we go. So, here he is. It does actually work. This is the light bulb side. This is the LED side. So I'll put this up here. Maybe you can see that a little better. Try not to drop it. Anyway, I was drilling holes to get these LEDs up in here. This is actually a little fiber optic side glow filament. But here is my number 2 goof. I need to open him up so you can see the inside. I don't know if you can hear this or not. No. Anyway, my little LED power supply here is making a very faint, high-pitched buzz. What is it, Isaac? Am I overdriving it? Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but I can't figure out why it makes this. It's just a real high pitch. Is it? I mean. Well, this isn't EL wire. That's just plastic. That's just fiber optic filament. It's just plastic filament. And it's driven by this little guy right here. You can barely see it. Anyway, this little guy right here that has an LED in front, and then it just fires up this filament. So I don't know, is it going to explode? Am I about to be kicked out because there's going to be a big fire? Try another one. Okay. They do whine. Okay. So if I can safely give this, I told him I was going to give it to him because he gave me a whole bunch of tubes. So if I can safely give it to him without worrying about burning his house down, then I'll do it. So anyway, there's the latest project. So there you have it. Hope he likes it. Hope you like it. And that's that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Russell. Okay, so if we could get Diane to come on up.
So, this is needle felting. I took a class in it many years ago, and we made sheep, and I just decided to make a man to put on top. With the needle felting, you take just regular wool roving, it's just this fluffy stuff, and then you pound it with these special needles that have the like barbs on them, and as it presses, it compacts it. And the more you press in certain areas, you can compact it to make faces or sheep, and you can attach things as well. If you take more of the wool felting and just attach the two, then you can make almost anything you want, three-dimensional or otherwise. For the sheep, for the legs, for the metal, if you try and do needle felting with the metal already in there, you probably break some of your needles. So what you can do is you take an awl through the finished product and make as big a hole as you can, and then try and slip the wire through in order to make the legs on it. And I did the same with the armature for the man. It's almost like really. And I did the quick and dirty. So I used ribbons instead of having to actually sew clothes. I'm sure Susanna could do that. But I did it so that I could get it done fast so I could finish it by the end of the class. But needle felting's pretty interesting, and like I said, you can make almost anything with it. And what's it called? Needle felting. Felting. So here's my little guy, and thank you.
That is great. One question I didn't get to ask, and I've always been afraid of with needle felting. How many times did you poke yourself with the needle? Ah, Band-Aids are a requirement. I get ya. Very nice. Thank you. Next up is David Martin with a peg game.
Kinda. All that surprising. The surprise is it took how long it took to do this. I actually started it a couple of years ago when I got fascinated with the arrangement of holes, and I wanted to be able to scale it because the one at Cracker Barrel is a little too small for big people fingers, and I wanted one that was a little bigger, and then I didn't want to promise how big I wanted. Anyway, that went for a while. When I was, I don't know, not too long past high school, I didn't have the $5 that you had to have to buy one of these things from Cracker Barrel. So I did what of course you think I would do. I wrote a program in Atari Basic that would actually play the game and not let you cheat. Handwritten, the printer, I don't remember if I had a printer at the time or not. Still got it somewhere. And the current project, though, is a C++ program, which I will probably never finish, for actually solving the thing. It may not ever be finished, but what I have of it will run like a scalded dog because I've discovered bit manipulations. So, that's it. So, enjoy.
So are we going to be playing that out at the hospitality table here shortly? Yeah. Thank you. Next up, we're going to get a buzzin' with a beehive. Joe.
Well, one of my hobbies is beekeeping, and when you're ADHD, you have too many hobbies. But I've got a laser engraver, and one of the projects I've been working on is a hive that I'm going to take over to what they call the Muse now, and I'll lay this, let's see which way, pick this here. This one I have not painted, I just lasered it and stuff. The hive I'm taking over to the Muse. The Muse is the Children's Science Activity Center over at Chilhowie Park. And I used to volunteer there years ago, and they have a beehive now that has issues, and I decided I'm not going to take over a plain Jane white box to put the bees in, so I lasered and painted the front of it. I'll bring some pictures when I get the bees moved into the new hive. But this is something I play with. I've got a LED laser and did this, and then here's another piece that I'm working on. Same pattern. I used the torch to scorch the wood, but when you got white pine, you get pitch, it scorches real quick. So I got some dark areas in here, but that is what I've done there. And this piece the other piece I can't put under the hive, so I'll hold it up. It's basically the same graphics, but I came back in and hand painted it. the front of it. So, yeah, I've got 2 hives in my backyard, and like I said, I'm getting ready to move the hive over there at the Muse into the new equipment, and I'll bring pictures of that over. But yeah, my wife and I both retired this year, and with too many hobbies, you start picking up, going different directions real quick. One of the other things I'm getting ready to work on is I'm getting back into grinding some telescope mirrors.
Did you do the woodwork to build the?
No, I bought the hives and because of the notch joints, but I have to put this on the laser before I put it together because the size of the piece. The laser I've got is the made by Autour. It's a 20-watt LED laser, and I can do about a 14 by 16 inch area, and I can get down to some pretty fine detail with it. I'm learning more with it and how it reacts with different woods, because what pine does versus oak or anything else, it varies so much. One thing I have found if I'm doing pine is mix about a teaspoon of baking soda into a cup or so of water, paint the wood with it, let it dry, and then burn it, and it gives a lot sharper detail in the engraving. So
That's an interesting tip on how to treat that pine. Thank you for sharing. We have one more game. We have Dave.
Good evening. This is going to be an impromptu. I was here 2 years ago from Kingsport, and I shared with the group that I made this marble game. That's, if we can focus in, however this works. But it's a... There's a little plus key. Little... Bottom right. All right, so let's see if we can... Okay, there we go. All right, so it was a round board. You're seeing the 6-player side. It's like aggravation. And it's a fun game to play, and I shared that 2 years ago. But since then, we've made a portable game, which I'd like to share with you, which is individual pieces that you can see on the right-hand side. And the way that's done is it was designed in Fusion 360 and taken over to VCarve. And let's see if this will, let's see, take it up. Okay, you can see there's a VCarve image on there. There's, let's turn it sideways here. Is that gonna work? That is correct. It's 6 pieces that are on a 2 by 4 foot board, and that's the beginning of it in VCarve. And then VCarve is sent out to the CNC, and let's see if I can bring that up so you can see the CNC running. So it's a really neat to be able to cut these out using the CNC. I will say you need to have a sharp bit, and the spoil board needs not to be cut up by the previous user, because at the top we're cutting out the individual pieces. Definitely much quicker to do it with the CNC. Also with the round board, I made a jig to hold the board. I would take the board and cut it out on a bandsaw, the circle, router the edges to make it nice and smooth, and then the jig would hold the board and then take it to the CNC and actually do the holes with the CNC. Prior to learning how to use a CNC, I was doing these holes by hand with a Craftsman drill where you just moved around the board. And it took about an hour and a half to drill both sides of the boards. So, any event, a fun project, as I say, totally impromptu. It's great to be back down here and be with you folks this evening. Thank you.
I like that router, Dave. That is great. Next up, we have Chris with some digital signage.
Howdy. Had an opportunity to make some digital signage. Basically, a little computer to drive a monitor. I was aware that one could do that with a Raspberry Pi, but looked to sit down and actually do that. So this is actually, let's see which one's up. Yep. So this is actually the computer. So it's a little Raspberry Pi W. So it's this little tiny thing. So there's a computer board in there with Raspberry Pi. The W model has wireless. And the entire setup is basically a power adapter. No, let's see. Basically, power adapter, the computer, an adapter for HDMI, and then power cable. Just generic cell phone stock. So anyway, there's a program called Screenway that has a free open source edition. So basically, you take an image, you flash the SD card, put that in this, and then when you power it on, it'll recognize that, hey, I don't have a network connection. It'll turn on the Wi-Fi, act as an access point itself. You connect to that with your cell phone, and it says, hey, what Wi-Fi do you want me to connect to? It gives you a drop-down list of all the SSIDs. So basically, you select your Wi-Fi, give it a password, then it'll connect to that Wi-Fi, grab an IP address, then you connect to that, and then you've got an interface on your phone, or desktop, or whatever machine you want to use to connect to it. So you can then load in your digital assets, whether that's movies, advertising, JPEG, what have you. Order it, get your settings, and you're off to the races. And really efficient little package. The board's $10. This aluminum case that acts as a giant heat sink was less than $15. And yeah, it works.
And the output is to wear a monitor?
Yes. So there's. Not sure if I can zoom this thing out. Oh, thank you. Oh, much better. Okay, yeah. so HDMI. So that's a converter. So it's a let's say it's HDMI micro. There's three of these things. There's a full size that looks like this. I believe that's the micro spec, and then there's a mini, which is this little tiny square bit. But basically, it's just a little adapter, and I forget what that is on Amazon. But basically, you get your power in, which is just your cell phone charging cable. Yep. So power in there, HDMI out. So you plug in your monitor or whatever output you're using. So just straight HDMI, nothing special. As long as the TV can take HDMI input. So, but yeah.
How many movies will it hold?
I'm sorry.
How many movies will it hold?
Oh, so there's a micro SD card in there, and you can whatever size you care to put in there. I think I've got a 32 gigabyte in this, and most of those things are tiny. They're 15-second ad clocks in 30 megabytes, something like that. So I mean, you could put literally hundreds. Also, it is aware of time. There is no real-time clock on the computer, but if it can grab a network time, then you can give it, hey, I want to show this ad from this date and time to this date and time, and then, set it up. So, completely network accessible and really simple to use and completely free. So, yep.
Thank you, Chris. So, we have come to the end of the people who have signed up for Show and Share. Is there anybody else that has decided that, ooh, I want to share my project now? Going once. Okay, well then we'll go on to the announcements. We have a blacksmithing authorization class coming up 7/29. Is that Saturday? Thursday at 6 p.m. I don't know if it's sold out. Oh, it is sold. Okay, sorry I brought it up then. Sorry, guys. Well, stay tuned for the next one. I know Andrew's been working to get several of those on the calendar. As far as announcements go, I don't have any. Are there any announcements? Tracy? Okay. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and conclude, and we can go out and talk, gather, and work on our projects. Thank everybody.